Good morning. Yeah, all of you are good morning. Um, this is the 24th of August, and I am wearing a black sweater. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a black sweater, okay? Um, we're going to start today. We talked about audience analysis, and once we do that, once we know who we're speaking to, then we can start to think about what topic would I like to speak about, what would be appropriate, what is going to be my purpose in speaking. So, we're going to speak about selecting a topic and purpose, and uh, obviously, the topic is the subject of a speech. And how do we get to that? There's so many things we could talk about. So we engage in a little bit of brainstorming. What do we know? What do we think would be interesting to our group that we're speaking to? So brainstorming is a method of generating ideas for speech topics by free association of words and ideas. A lot of people just like to go to Google, and I recommend this. Type in what's a good topic for a speech of introduction, or what's a good topic for a special occasion speech, or an informative speech, or a persuasive speech. And there are sites that will give you hundreds, if not dozens, of ideas. Let's try to go with things that are more unusual so that you are not likely to be giving a speech on the same topic as half or three-quarters of your classmates. Make it a little more interesting for all of us who will be watching your speech. On slide 4, we talk about a general purpose. This is going to be pretty simple. We have a general purpose. It's the broad goal of the speech. And then let me tell you that these broad goals could be something like to entertain, to educate, to inform, to persuade, to inspire. There are lots of things we can do in a speech. But these are the general purposes that I've just enumerated for you. It's the broad goal of the speech. I'm sorry. So what is the specific purpose statement? The general purpose statements were infinitive phrases. What are infinitive phrases? They are phrases that begin with the word to, T-O, to do something. The specific purpose statement is also a single infinitive phrase that states precisely what a speaker hopes to accomplish in his or her speech. I have things falling in front of me. Okay. So we move on to the next slide, 6, and here are the guidelines. I want you to take these steps. I want you to start to begin these steps with your speech of introduction. And so they will become natural to you when you develop your next speech and the next one and the next one. Once you leave here, you'll know, oh, first I have to figure out who am I speaking to. Then I have to figure out what my purpose is. So follow these steps and you'll be sure to come up with a proper thesis statement, which we'll talk about next. All right, write it as a full infinitive phrase. This is your specific purpose statement. Express it as a statement, never as a question. Avoid figurative language. We'll talk about these things. Limit it to one distinct idea. And avoid being too vague or general. We were very general with the general purpose statement. Now we're going to be very specific with the specific purpose statement. The importance of limiting it to one distinct idea is because you're going to be speaking 2 to 3 minutes. How many topics do you think you can cover in 2 to 3 minutes? Well, we don't want you talking at the speed of sound. So to be able to give a nicely paced 2 to 3 minute speech, you talk on one topic. Go to slide 7 if you're following me on this. Write the specific purpose as a full infinitive phrase, and I'm going to start to give you examples. Ineffective, calendars. Calendars, that's my specific purpose. No, there's got to be the word to in front of it. So here is the more effective specific purpose statement: to inform my audience about the 4 major kinds of calendars used in the world today. Your specific purpose statement is for you. It is not going to be spoken in your speech. It is for you to get a handle on what you are trying to accomplish. Moving on to the next slide. Here's another example. Ineffective. Is the U.S. space program necessary? First of all, that's not an infinitive phrase. Secondly, it's a question. You never use a question. Never. So here's the more effective specific purpose statement: to persuade my audience that the U.S. space program provides many important benefits to people here on Earth. I don't know if any of you remember Tang, but I was a youngster when NASA started sending flights into space, and they came back and they brought Tang to the marketplace. I love Tang. I don't know where it's sold, but first flavor was orange, and that was one of the benefits, because they would send Tang up with the astronauts, and all they had to do was stir it into some water, and they had orange juice, which was very nice. All right, so we've got this specific purpose statement: to persuade my audience that the U.S. space program, blah, 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 blah. What would be the general purpose statement of that? It would be to persuade. To persuade. Okay. Moving along to some more here. When I said avoid figurative language in the specific purpose statement, the ineffective would be to inform my audience that yoga is extremely cool. Cool is figurative. Cool is not concrete. We don't really know. My definition of cool may not be your definition of cool. So we don't want to use that kind of language. So more effective would be to inform my audience how yoga can improve their health. I happen to believe that it's pretty cool if you can do something that improves your health. So as you see, this is much clearer, and that's what we want to do. Now we have another one where we're talking about the specific idea. Limit the specific purpose to one distinct idea. Here's an ineffective example: to persuade my audience to become literacy tutors and to donate time to the Special Olympics. How many specific purposes do we have here? We have 2. I want to persuade them to become literacy tutors, and I want to persuade them to donate time to the Special Olympics. That's not going to work. That's not going to work in a 5-minute speech, okay? Much less a 2 to 3 minute speech. So let's see what's better. All right, more effective is to persuade my audience to become literacy tutors. One topic, that's great. Or to persuade my audience to donate time to the Special Olympics. Great. Pick one. It's got to be one. You can't use 2. You can save another topic for another speech on another day. Then we go to slide 12. Be sure the specific purpose is not too vague or general, because, again, this is not the general purpose statement. This is the specific one. So the ineffective is to inform my audience about the Civil War. Whoa, great. That's like my social studies teacher in high school asking me on a final exam, what about China? What do you mean, what about China? Okay, that's not specific enough. This is more effective. To inform my audience about the role of African American soldiers in the Civil War. Okay, I can wrap my head around that. Still pretty broad for a 3 to 5 minute speech, or certainly for a 2 to 3 minute speech. Think about, what I said. The outline is for you. If I think this is my specific purpose statement, start jotting things down. Well, what am I going to talk about in this 2 to 3 minutes about the role of African American soldiers? Have I narrowed it down enough? Is it still too broad? You have to figure that out for yourself. Questions to ask about your specific purpose statement. So when you come up with it, ask yourself these things. Does my purpose meet the assignment? Okay. Can I accomplish my purpose in the time allotted? Very important. Is the purpose relevant to my audience? Absolutely, it needs to be something that if it isn't relevant, then the audience can see how it might be relevant to a friend of theirs or to a relative of theirs, whatever. They have to be able to make some use of this information that you're giving them. And we go on to 14, questions to ask about your specific purpose. Is the purpose too trivial for my audience? And is the purpose too technical for my audience? The too trivial thing is the one that concerns me most, because a lot of times students think, well, if I talk about something really simple, really not important, then I can get through this very easily. But that leads to a really boring speech. Possibly a tremendously ineffective speech. So we'll stop right here and move on to the remainder of the PowerPoint.